right. Hello, good evening, everyone. I like to call the Town of Rocky Hill Plan Implementation Committee, I would call like PIC Committee, a Zoom remote meeting of December 2nd, 2020 to order. My name is Dimple Desai, the chairman of the committee. I don't think we have Mayor Maratha here, right? She's not, is she going to join us? I don't know.
She is here, Dimple.
Oh, she's here?
Yes.
I'm here.
All right, Mayor Maratha, I'd like to welcome you as well.
Thank you.
Yep. The following are the panelists of the committee that includes members of various boards and commissions. Myself, Victor Zerilli, Sandy Kelly, Marty Stiglich. Is Marty here by phone or?
I did contact Marty and Lee for a voice message.
Okay. All right, so I don't see her, so that's fine. We have Ed Ciccarello, we have Kim Ritchie, Bob Alvarado. Do I see? I don't see Ray, I don't see Steve. We got Craig Bowman.
Steve Tokolak is here. He is under, he has my name also.
Oh, okay.
I'm Kim. I didn't get the invite, so I had to log in as Kim.
Yes, Kim. All right. So that's good.
Hey, Kim.
I think Melissa is not here, right? I don't see her. So
No.
okay. So the PNZ would like to reactivate this PIC committee for the town's plan of conservation and development. I would call POCD. And as you all know, the POCD is a working document used to identify desirable policies and action steps for the community. As implementation proceeds, it is normal and expected that policies and action steps will be refined and new action steps identified. While the PIC is referred to as a committee, it is intended to be more of a working group focused on ideas and ultimately prioritize and recommend its implementation to the appropriate board or commission or council, as the case may be. Having said that, I like to emphasize that although we are going to work towards achieving few goals, the implementation of a new idea or action step depends on several factors such as priority, support, funding, etc. So having said that, I'd like to give floor to Mayor Maratha if you want to say a few words.
Yeah, actually, I didn't want to say any words, but thank you for inviting me to say something. I don't know. I'm just thrilled having served on the PIC committee before. I know that it doesn't meet very often, but it certainly has an important role in carrying out the plan of conservation and development. And there are a number of things that, you know, other towns are doing right now that we probably should jump on the wagon and start doing. And so this is a great opportunity, you know, for this committee to get together and explore some stuff that's out there. So thank you. Thank you all for your time and volunteering.
All right, thank you. I think our second item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak? I think we are all the invited members, so probably we'll be talking later. So moving on to item 3, introductions. I will go down that I see on my screen. Ed Ciccarello, you want to introduce? I mean, I know everybody knows everybody, but I just want to go through the formality.
Sure. Thank you, Dimple. Yeah, so my name's Ed Ciccarello. In this meeting, I'm representing Walk Bike Rocky Hill because I'm not on a commission at this point. So thank you.
Thank you. We have staff, Kim Ritchie. I'll go to next, Sandy Kelly.
Hi, thank you, Dimple. Yes, I'm representing the Open Space and Inland Wetlands Commission.
Thank you. And now next we have Bob Alvarado, who is the staff to Open Space. We have another Kim Ritchie, you all met. Victor Zerilli.
Hi, I'm Victor Zerilli, and I am the Vice Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right, thank you. Now we have Craig Bowman. Craig, you want to introduce, I think? Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Craig Bowman, Director of the Parks and Recreation Department for the town of Rocky Hill.
All right. I don't think we have met Craig, so
Nice to meet you.
So I think we covered everybody. So we'll move on to item 4, 2015 Plan of Conservation and Development. Kim, do you want to take over?
One of the, this committee was set up when our POCD, Plan of Conservation and Development, was prepared and took effect back in 2015. And unfortunately, this past year, as everybody knows, has been unusual to say the least, and it's remains so. We've had a committee. There was a town resident by the name of Leslie Kurz that put together a preliminary spreadsheet for some of the action items and objectives that's contained within the document. And I know that many of you have a copy of the POCD. Others I did send out by
Kim, you froze.
I just want to point out Marty Stiglich is a member also. She serves on the Economic Development Commission. Ray Carpentino is staff to the Economic Development Commission, and he will be present. Also, Melissa Hicks, Director of Human Services. That was a new addition this year in that our population is aging, and we do have some legislation coming up that deals with affordable housing options, and she certainly is instrumental in dealing with some of the agencies that deal with those issues. So we've added her to the roster, and she's accepted that as well. In your packet that was distributed, and I did on the meeting invite to people on the agenda, ask if anybody wanted copies of the packet. They could certainly contact me for it. We put together a spreadsheet. Now, you'll notice the date on the spreadsheet is dated in June of 2019. This is basically, and Ed and Sandy and Bob can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but we did have a series of meetings, and during those meetings we would review the objectives and the strategies that are contained within the POCD to find out, are we looking at the correct group of people in charge of that activity? What is the status at the time? What should be prioritized? And obviously, in planning and zoning, we may have a different priority than the Open Space and Conservation Commission or the Economic Development Commission or Parks and Rec. And that's something that this body as a whole, and it's a working group, it's not a commission per se, it really is a working group. We have to come up with priorities and kind of calling the shots. So Dimple as the chairman and Victor, I assume, will be the vice chairman, will be taking that back to the commission. And if you see on your agenda, there will be tasks assigned to different people and different groups. That way we can push these items along. Some of these items may no longer be applicable to the town for priorities. Dimple was very correct in calling out that priorities may be related to funding. Obviously, what may be a priority for even planning and zoning, if there's funding attached to it, we have to have council involvement. one of the things we talked about when we last met was, do we want a council representative to be present at the meeting? And I did send the invitation to Lisa Murata, probably as a hint that maybe we do want a council member to be present to act as a liaison between this group and the council. They are in charge of the purse strings of the town. We are not. We can only make suggestions, but they can certainly take it back and report it in their own terms back to the council. I don't know how you want me to handle the spreadsheet, Dimple. There's a lot of information here. I don't know who has talked, who has reviewed it, who has not. Dimple?
I think there's a lot of information here, so if we go one by one, it's going to take a long time. So what I would recommend is that the members, the working group members look at this and provide any comments, take off things that doesn't apply, cross it off, and then maybe we can give all our comments to Kim, and then she can summarize or correct, amend this particular spreadsheet, because I think that would be, the way to go rather than just going through, hundreds of items. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that?
We should be looking also at it from our own perspective as far as our own disciplines go with respect to priorities. Because obviously if we have the trail managers, and we're fortunate to have, I think, 2 of them here, if they have priorities, they should bring that forth at a subsequent meeting, obviously, or possibly this meeting. That's up to the chair. For example, Open Space and Conservation Commission, Sandy Kelly in concert with Baba Barato, coming up with their priorities. Planning and Zoning, myself, Victor, and Dimple coming up with priorities for that commission. Craig and possibly Ed as a former member, I don't know, to come up with priorities with respect to parks and recreation. Steve Sokolak in concert with Baba Barato and maybe myself with respect to infrastructure. If there's some drainage issues, roadways, coming up with priorities that way. And we can bring the priorities back at a subsequent meeting and maybe label them 1 through 5. And why, and actually think of the resources needed to implement these things as it relates to the spreadsheet. We may have overlapping interests, and that may rise it to, that may cause that item to rise to the top of the pile. But if that's something that maybe the members of the working group want to consider, that would help.
Right. I think that makes sense. And, respective commissions and boards and the staff can work through those priorities. But what I like to do today is we have Ed, and, I have to say it was his proposal, the walk bike, that brought us here today. So I like to give floor to Ed, and maybe he can talk about, what his vision is and what him and his group is trying to do in concert with, our surrounding towns like Wethersfield and Glastonbury and, Cromwell, if they are involved. And just go through that, because that would be something I think we should take upon as first item while we are still working on the spreadsheet and trying to figure out the different priorities. That makes sense, members?
Yep.
Okay. So Ed, do you want to?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Dimple. So to piggyback on what Kim was saying, I have prioritized in a way the things that I'm very much interested in, and I've had a lot of conversations with a number of people here already about those. So I think just sort of trying to synthesize all of our conversations into one direction, focused on the POCD. There's three things that I'm focused on. The first one is open space and connecting the open space areas that we have. And there's other action steps that are within that. The second one would be other modes of transportation. In other words, bicycling and walking being the other modes. And then the third one would be the establishment of the town center. And I know Victor last time asked me, you know, Ed, what do you think would be the first, you know, the most doable, perhaps the low hanging fruit. And I know that connecting the community center to the river has been a big strategy or big idea for us for many years. You know, we were at one time back in the 1700s, a huge river town with 4 wharves along the river. You know, I won't get that much into history, but it's there. We have all that history. And so we have now the community center that we're redoing. Isn't it the opportunity? Isn't it the time right now is to establish that plan from the community center to the river? I know I talked with Steve Aka Kim, and you know, I said to him one time, you know, do you think we need to go outside and hire somebody, or do you think, you know, within the, you know, your world, you know, you and Dave and Kim and all the staff, you think and Steve was like, yeah, I think we could do this, you know? So, and then also talking with Mayor Marat, I think, you know, the connection because of the Putnam Bridge is coming online, the walkway in 2021, supposedly that's supposed to get done in Weathersfield. It has plans already to connect that sidewalk into the meadows. Isn't it a perfect opportunity now that we could connect with our farmers and figure out a way to you know, get some signage and create a safe walking area down in the meadows. I've had discussions with hunters too down there recently. You know, I've walked down there on a Sunday where there was shooting going on. And you know what? That's okay. That's legal. But I didn't know that it was legal. And if I don't know it, then I can guarantee you that 99% of Rocky Hillians and everybody else doesn't know that. So I think there's an element of public safety here too in regards to that. So Dimple, those are the things that I'm focused on. And I think I told you last time I'm retired, so I've got the time. I know a lot of you all are working, and so I can, you know, I could give me a task and I'm on it, man. So I appreciate you, and certainly Mayor Marat, I appreciate all you guys getting together. And I see the dream team right here, man. Look at this, everybody together. I love it. You get a lot of work done. So
Thanks,
I'll give
Ed.
it back to you, Dimple. I'll be happy to answer any questions or participate however I can.
Yep. Thanks, Ed. I think those were some good ideas. I would give just my comment on connecting the community center to the river. As you know, now we have different owners who own those property along, you know, Glastonbury Ave, you know, that connects the river. So I think we can come and work on some sort of planning, some sort of, you know, see what can be done. However, I think if we were talking about low-hanging fruit, in my mind, I think this might be a little longer term because of getting access to private properties and then have continuous access all the way down to the river. I don't know what the other members think, but that's what I was thinking in terms of that connection. As far as the signage, what I would call like wayfinding, I think that is important piece. And I think that is kind of low hanging fruit that we can embark on and start implementing, because, one or two sign, at a time, it's not going to put a big dent in the budget or as we talked at the last meeting at the P&Z, maybe we involve Chamber of Commerce, and maybe, mayor can, talk to Chamber of Commerce, and maybe some of the business owners may participate and say, you know what, okay, I'm going to donate $1,000 or whatever, and maybe that's how we start our process, and that wayfinding might be the low-hanging fruit that I'm looking at. I think those were my thoughts. I don't know who else wants to chime in and talk about, if you have any other ideas about this.
If I may, Craig and Ed and I have already worked on, we got 4 signs, Ed. We got Cirillo Park, we have Buckley Park. What are the other ones we did?
Corey
Park.
and Dividend, yeah.
Yep.
I
So
think
we've
we did
already-
6. I think it was 6.
Yeah, we already started with some of those wayfinding signs.
Mhm.
And I don't want to speak for the highway department, but we do have a sign machine. I don't know if we have the correct blanks, but that's something we could probably order. You have to meet the acronym MUTCD, Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So that you want to run that through us. If someone wants to donate money, great, but they have to be the correct sign. We just can't throw signs willy-nilly. There's sign shape, colors, font, text size. So we want to make sure we meet all those regulations.
And I think this would be probably, if you're talking about the community center and the Glastonbury Ave in that area, probably that would be historic signs, right? I mean, they can't be just regular signs, right?
They're brown.
Brown,
They're
right?
brown signs like you usually see going to a park.
Right.
So Dimple, if I could just jump in for a second again, one of the, I agree, the wayfinding signs are definitely low hanging fruit. And, Craig has been great in regards to the signage for Center Cemetery, right, Craig? We got new signs for that.
I think great. I think great is not the word, but
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did. They actually came out pretty nice.
Buckley, just recently we got a sign at Buckley, a new sign. So, but here's the problem. I'm going to go to the spreadsheet, and it's on the, I guess, the 3rd page. It's on the very, very bottom of the 3rd page, number 4. And it says, establish a signage or marking program for open space areas in Rocky Hill so that residents can become more familiar with where open spaces are. Okay, that's what we're talking about. That's the low hanging fruit. Now, this is my problem, Dimple, and Kim mentioned it in the beginning. The leader on that, Sandy Kelly, says Open Space and Conservation Commission. That's who it says. That's what it says in here. And the partner is Parks and Rec. Now, I got to tell you, that's not what's happening. So what do we want the reality of that to be? Who is the leader for, is Craig Bowman the leader for the signage program in all of Rocky Hill now?
Can I just jump in on that?
Please.
I believe that according to the Plan of Conservation and Development, that's backwards. Because Parks and Recs should take the lead on signage. I mean, open space will make recommendations as far as signage and what have you, but the lead should come from, I believe, should come from the Parks and Recs department. That's what I think. That will be more in line with what's going to be done in the future, anyways.
So Bob, are you talking, like, for instance, the meadow signs? If we were to put signs in the meadows, if we were to put gateway signs, you're saying that's Park and Rec?
That will be, though, anything that is related to open space, even though it's, and parks and what have you, is the park department. It will be Parks and Recs. It will be, I believe it will be Recs' baby.
Let me
We
clarify.
we can have input on it, of course, but I think the lead should come from the Parks and Rec department, or at least the Park Advisory Board, which hasn't even been mentioned here.
Now, let me ask one question. Can I just clarify one thing, Kelly, and then I'll give it to you. I want to know, like, all these assignments that we see in columns, did it come exactly from the POCD or somebody assigned it and that's how they came about?
I don't know,
These
Kim,
are
can you
all
answer
from the
that?
POCD. These are all written in the POCD.
All the assignments and everything?
Yeah. So the POCD could be wrong. And I think that's the whole purpose of meeting is that, like Bob said, he thinks that that's backwards. And so,
I have a question.
please.
On the subject of who's responsible for signage. If you look at the cemetery sign, which is beautiful, or if we're talking signage for the meadows, these are town properties. They're not parks for recreational use. So I think that should be Public Works. I mean, Public Works maintains town properties, correct? So I really think there's a division of responsibility there. I mean, I can see if it's Dividend or Quarry, that makes sense. That is a town acknowledged park, the dog park. But town property that's not for recreational purposes? That I don't understand how that would fall into Parks and Rec.
So let me ask you something in regards to the Open Space Commission. You all usually meet as an Inland Wetlands Commission. Do you ever really meet as an Open Space Commission and just strictly talk about open space?
Well, it really depends on what the topic of the meeting is. I mean, usually the meetings revolve around permits for building or people who've done something against a conservation easement on their property, which often involves wetlands. So it's whatever is involved on the agenda. And typically it's a wetlands issue more than an open space. However, and maybe we'll get to this. There's discussion and it's listed on the spreadsheet of having open space, our open space hat on and making recommendations to planning and zoning for designated open space on a development when there's a set aside. So then we would talk open space. And Kim, we've discussed this, right, with planning and zoning in earlier PIC meetings and have had discussions about even maybe having a combined meeting with inland wetlands and planning and zoning to help talk about issues that maybe planning and zoning isn't familiar with, like low impact development or something, just so we can all get on the same page.
And I think I'm reading that particular item from POCD, and it says establish a signage or marking program for open space areas in Rocky Hill so the residents can become familiar with where open spaces are in the community. So I believe that was the reason why probably leader was open space. We were not talking about wayfinding, because signage, because that is different. When we talk about wayfinding signages, those are different, as Kelly said, because there are state roads, there are town roads, and then there are private. So I think that's where the distinction comes. And when they assign that open space as a leader, they're talking about open space, not.
I understand. Just
Right.
the one of the examples was the meadows,
Yep.
which is most obviously protected, almost protected right now by the farmers. So yeah, I understand that. Right.
So I think to answer Ed's question, I think that's probably, when we talk signage, we are talking in a broader sense, signage. And when this particular item is listed and open space is the leader, it's very specific related to open space, right? So maybe we will have to focus more on that. Just take it from 30 foot and then bring it down and then subdivide into a couple of different, items like open space, and then you will have walkways,
Well,
And
I
then-
think there's also some confusion too, because I think sometimes when people think open space, they think, oh, that must be trails and what have you. And that's where we get involved, is when there's trails and those types of things. I can tell you from my perspective, I don't have a problem taking the lead on the signage piece in certain areas. You know, I think it a lot of times when people need things done, they call us and we get it done. Our department does. So it's just, I do think that whole open space terminology though needs to be a little bit more defined, like you're saying, because, you know, yes, the Meadows is open space. Right now, we don't have anything, our department doesn't have anything to do with Meadows. And I think that's kind of what Sandy's kind of getting at is, so, you know, that would be helpful in the future.
Some of the open space areas we're talking about in that particular item also is the open space within subdivisions, the open space set asides, of which
She keeps on freezing.
Kim's having a tough time tonight.
Computer, yeah.
will have the ability to weigh in on
Say
that.
that. You froze up, Jim.
Oh, my internet is going in and out, so we need a new router,
You're out again.
so,
You need a reboot.
no,
Question.
I tried.
Question for the staff and or the mayor. Like we said in the beginning, money drives everything. Is there anything in departmental budgets for signs? And if so, is that person in charge of signs? Usually the ownership comes with money in the budget. And is there something already happening in the budget, whether it's for the building department or whether it's for the Parks and Rec department or whatever, that there's already monies in place or planned monies or a line item, let's say it could be a $0 amount, but a line item that our predecessors already thought about this and we just haven't funded it, and we need to address that because we may be just reinventing something that's already been invented. And if they're in multiple departments and we come up with a formula for signs, what is the vehicle to get all that money into that department rather than it being spread? Like, for example, Public Works was brought up in this conversation. Planning and zoning was brought up in this conversation. And I'm assuming they all have something having to do with money in the budget for signs. They do street signs, they do all this other stuff. So is there an opportunity already in the budget for ownership? And if there's not, then we can start assigning. But if there's already something, then we kind of already got the wheel going with it. That's just my little comment for that. Usually ownership follows the money and it's already been decided on who owns it by where it is in the budget. So that's what I don't know the budget. I don't claim to know the budget, but I'm assuming you guys as department heads know your budget. So that's why I bring it up.
Public Works isn't here. I don't know his budget line item by line item, but there is, they do the road signs, the turn signs, the street signs, all that. They do have a sign making machine. They do have the post and the blanks. So, they usually make their own signs. They have that capability. So I'm assuming it's in his budget. I don't know what the line item is and how, how much, but there is a sign crew.
I know that Parks and Rec typically goes through BizWiz or one of the commercial companies for the more decorative signage in town. With respect to the regulatory signs, Parks and Rec has been, Public Works has been involved with the more regulatory signs.
Yeah, and Victor, that's a good question. In our parks budget, we have over $1 million budget, and I've got money set aside in certain line items that I have dedicated towards signage. but it's more so for the parks. You know, some of the signage things we've done with the cemetery, we actually, you know, we have a cemetery fund that we were able to pay for that out of. We did some signage for, you know, coming off the highway, welcome to Rocky Hill. That was actually paid for by the chamber. So to answer your question, I don't think there's one set line item just directly dedicated to signage. I think this is just a small piece in a bigger picture where I think that there needs to be more money allocated towards open space. This is just my opinion, but towards open space preservation, and signage would be one thing that's included in it. One thing, like I can tell you from our perspective, if we have a tree that comes down and it's town-owned property, let's say the 691 open space, if we have trees that come down there, we go in and get the trees removed. It comes out of our budget. You know, this is, and then if we need trail maintenance that's done, there's not necessarily an allocated amount each year that gets dedicated towards trail maintenance. We have a small amount, but you know, this, I think in general, this is all part of a bigger picture. You know, we have a farm that the town is going to be maintaining soon. You know, what's going to happen when there's issues with the farm, or we want to create a trail there, and then we're going to need maintenance on that trail. That's another open space thing. So, you know, I don't want to ramble on about this, but I think it's definitely part of a bigger overall picture.
Right. I think this is a good start of discussion. And then, you know, as issues like this come up, we can go back and, you know, talk to respective boards, commissions, and council, and then see where, you know, at the end, I mean, I see this is like a town action, you know, overall. You know, whether the budget is divided into 5 different offices or commissions, you know, that's one thing, but it is coming from one pot. So I think, you know, probably what we'll have to look at is identify what these action items are, and then see, you know, who else can chip in, you know, who has similar type of budget line items that can fund that particular action item, you know, because, you know, budget line items are, you know, not rigid. I mean, they're rigid in certain aspect, but it's not like once this line item is written, money can only go for that item. If there is a way of funding something, then, you know, we can come up with that fund. So
Dimple, just to wrap this up, this establishing a signage and marking program, we have open space and conservation as the lead and Parks and Rec as the partner. Bob Alvarado suggested that gets flipped around. It sounds like Craig says that he's okay with being a lead for open space, but not for everything, it seems, right? And so Sandy and Bob, can open space somehow connect with Park and Rec and have that conversation about the signage program? Because we got to look at the whole town, right?
Oh, certainly.
and I
we can do
think,
that.
go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. We can certainly meet up and clean it up. But like I said before, most of the signage returning to the open space areas in the town of Rocky Hill, which is the purview of the Parks Department. I strongly believe that they should take the lead, and then we can help in any ways, in any way we can. Other areas, then we can, they might be open for discussion as to who will be responsible for the signage.
If I may, here's a good example. It's I think it's called West Hill Open Space. It's behind West Hill School. It's behind Westerly Terrace.
Yeah.
It's a large piece of open space people don't know about. I don't know if you want people running around in there or not. I mean, there might even be wetlands in there. I'm not exactly positive. But Kim can attest to this. We went out there. There's people on Westerly Terrace. There was fences in their backyard, which are the property line. Beyond the fences, there were sheds, there's boats, there's full manicured lawns, fire pits, swing sets, all of that and it's town-owned open space, and no one was policing that. But it's not like something we're gonna go run and put. I mean, maybe we should put placards. Not full-blown signs, but like the little discs like Bob used to have.
Yeah.
They're about 3 or 4 inches in diameter on every property corner or something. That's something that the highway public works crew probably wouldn't be able to make. Yeah, that's more of a specialty item.
No, and I think we had discussed about those issues as well, like how do we prevent people expanding on into open space, because and the demarcation and things like that. But I think along with that, it also comes down to enforcement, right? I mean, how do we want to enforce? And I think people understand the value of money, right? So when town starts charging them or fining them for certain things, and putting restrictions on their land records and, all that kind of stuff, like taking some definitive action that can have impact on them and their property, people will be, cautious, but that's a different level of talk. So, but I think, right now, what I would like to, at least to move this conversation ahead, as Craig was saying, I mean, this is not just one department. It is going to be both, or maybe there might be a third department as well. So I think even though it might be that the lead is written as identified as open space, I mean, we don't have to. I mean, we are one town. Okay, we are one, we are all serving the residents of Rocky Hill. So we don't have to take it literally and say, I don't want to be the leader. Yeah, I mean, this is not about taking in that sense. I think what we can do is we can say, okay, in these 5 items, open space would be the leader. In these 5 items, park and rec would be the leader. In these 2 items, public works will come in. So I think that's how we will have to further break it down, depending on what it is, so that onus is not put on just one staff. And we want to make sure that everybody who has a role is involved. So that's what my thinking is. I mean, Sandy and Lisa, you guys can, I don't know what thoughts you have.
I think it depends on the property. As I said before, it depends on location and property.
I'd agree.
So, what we can do is maybe when Ed is working on breaking down certain things or certain areas, once you have, once you go to the Meadows area, right, for example, then you identify three different areas where 2 of the agencies might be involved or boards might be involved. Then we bring it back and say, okay, who does this and who does that? And then assign those tasks to that appropriate commission.
Perhaps we could look at it like who maintains it. Take a given situation. Who maintains it? They're responsible. If Parks maintains it, then it's a Parks Department. If the town maintains it, Public Works, then it's somebody else's responsibility.
No, I think
A sign for a road, for instance, versus a sign for a park.
right. I think, and again, I'm just thinking out loud. What can happen is the assignment might be there. Public Works cleans the snow. Okay, I mean, and that's how they are assigned. But that doesn't mean that Public Works would be involved in the signage of that road, particular road. If they want to do show some historic, story and wants to prepare a plaque for that area, I don't think Public Works would be responsible for that, right? So I think it's not as simple as who handles the road is responsible for signage, right? It's so we have to look above and beyond how we are going to address this. So I mean, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, Craig and other staff, I mean, you guys and Kim, you know, you guys can speak up, see how, you know, you guys do things. I mean, Steve, you have experience and you maintain, you know, a lot of things. So
I know I'm sorry about my internet because our router is not doing well right now. Our subdivision regulations have been modified. So the issue that Steve mentioned about the West Hill open space and off of Westerly Terrace, those areas, that would be taken care of by our current subdivision regulations. We didn't have that in place in the past. But I think we're really getting into the weeds now. And I think we need to think in broader strokes before we get into the weeds. I think what people need to do with this spreadsheet is look and see if it makes sense for people. This is what the POCD says now. I mean, obviously we already have people looking at it saying, well, this doesn't make sense to me as far as the leads on some of these things. I think we need to take a look at those and say, okay, if it makes sense for the town council to take the lead, fine. Then maybe the town council, and maybe if we get a representative from the town council, maybe they can take it back to them and say, okay, what is the priority for us regarding our items as we need those items? Obviously, the town council is going to have the hand in a lot of these things, but they are going to be in charge of whatever their lead is. Planning and zoning members, take a look at what you're the lead of and take a look at the other items. Does it make sense that P&Z be the lead? Does it make sense that Parks and Rec be the lead? Those items that P&Z is involved with, take and prioritize those items. Look at the spreadsheet. If it doesn't make sense for you, establishing a bicycle committee, for example. I know that it says here town council and staff. Does it make sense that the town council take the lead on that, or does it make sense for others to do that? And then bring back your own items to the board, to this particular working group, and say, okay, we've looked at our items. At our next meeting, this is going to be our priorities, and maybe label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and why. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, rather than getting into the weeds on one specific item at our essentially first kickoff meeting of a new group.
no, and right. I think I agree. And that's why I said, you know, as far as the spreadsheet is concerned, we can go back, we can review it, and then with our, you know, particular staffs and revise it if we think that it needs revision. And because again, this document POCD is not fixed. I mean, it can be amended, and that's what this PIC committee is supposed to be doing. We are looking at it, we are working on it, and when and if we see any changes to be made, we do that. Just to, I don't want to labor this too much, but I just found something in the POCD on page 38. It talks about preserve and enhance community character. And under policies, it talks about preserve scenic resources in and the scenic attributes of Rocky Hill, and the leader is town and partners is staff. So I think that's what I was talking about. I think that's at a 30,000 foot level where we are talking about all this scenic and you know, open space and you know, views and whatever we want to call, and it comes under town as a leader. So I think it's between all the staff and all the you know, commission that we look at it and then break it down further, and then we can assign particular tasks. You know, so I think
Dimple, so at our last planning and zoning meeting, Ed did his presentation for us, which was awesome. But one of the things that came out of that is that several of us asked how other towns are doing things, how they get their funding for what they want to do. What are some of their goals that we could possibly align with? Because, I mean, if it stops at the border, it stinks. You know, it doesn't work. I mean, you know, You see in Hartford, they're integrating streets with bikes, with sidewalks. And, you know, are those the type of things that, you know, yeah, we have a document. The document was done in 2015. Is there any new stuff out there that we need to be looking at also that staff is educated on daily, monthly, weekly in their meetings or in their little, their training that they go through that, that we don't know about? You know, Weathersfield is going through a big, like Ed was saying, Weathersfield is trying to connect the Putnam Bridge to the Meadows and all this other stuff. Well, how are they getting the money for that? I mean, it's how do we get the money for the South Dean? It shouldn't be always. My hope is that we're not just trying to dump money into our town budget to try to do this because it's going to fall. It's going to fall because obviously we all don't want to pay more taxes, and we all don't want to do stuff. And this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to force anybody for politicize this, but I'm just saying is that ultimately it's about, like we said earlier, donations, Chamber of Commerce. You know, is there any grants out there? Who writes the grants for the town? I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know. So I think an education on that kind of stuff for some of us would also go far to seeing who's responsible for things in the sheet as we go through it. Obviously, we won't have it now, but I'm going to be honest with you. I probably can't be educated on all of these because I'm not trained in certain things, but I understand logically how things work. And
Could I make a comment?
yeah, absolutely.
This is a little sideways, but not really when you're talking grants. Ray, and this is kudos to Ray Carpentino. He writes grants. We just got awarded, the town of Rocky Hill, a STEEP grant, which is small town improvement. Economic assistance, small town economic assistance, $128,500 for a barn at the Straska property, which is huge. And the town only has to put in $12,500. So there are grants, and we're fortunate to have Ray, who's on top of them. And if I'm not mistaken, the STEEP grant helped with the sidewalk improvement as well. Probably somebody else. No, Steve says no.
No, that's
The Main Street, it's a Main Street Investment Fund
okay. Well,
Yeah.
but that was a grant of sorts.
grant.
yeah, they're grants. They're grants. Yeah.
Okay. So somebody is on top, somebody knows about writing grants. So I just wanted to put that in there that we have been fortunate and there are grants out there.
No, and I think, Sandy, you are absolutely right. I think, and again, I want to echo what Victor said as well. It all comes down to money. And if we are going to look at the town part for everything, probably nothing will happen because that's you know, there is taxes issue and things like that. So I think it's going to fall on its face. So I think we do have to look at other funding sources and maybe you know, also maybe what we do is add, if you have friends in Weathersfield who are involved with your program that you're working on, maybe they can come and do a presentation to the PIC committee and say, you know, this is what we have done. And this is how long it has taken us to come to this point. If there is somebody in Glastonbury, maybe they can come to us and explain to us and say, why don't you look at this? Why don't you look at that? And maybe, you know, again, it's not just necessary that it has to be town by town. Well, you know, Weathersfield and Rocky Hill can combine and do a joint application. I mean, you know, and by that way you have a more robust support, you know, politically, you know, when two towns are submitting something and seeking approval. So I think there are different ways of getting funding, and maybe anybody who is out there who has really done this job, you know, already, maybe we hear from them. I mean, Ed, I don't know what you think of that.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things as I listen. I have this same conversation with other people sometimes with the Historical Society. What comes first, the money or the plan?
Mhm.
If you don't have the plan, you don't get the money. If you don't have the money, you don't get, you can't make a plan. this is the planning group. This is, so I don't want to talk a lot about money. I mean, I know it's a necessary thing. I know maybe we don't have it, but I think, we have over 7, 8 people here that I think we could discuss the planning, I mean, still I opened up initially with the connection to the river. That's been a goal since at least 2000, but I don't know who's working on it. Is anybody working on it? I know we got Cirillo Park, right? And I know I had a conversation with Steve, who gave me hope that he could make a plan. He said,
I can draw a picture, but unless there's a lot of obstacles with that. I don't want to dash anybody's hopes, but it's a state road and there's a lot of private property. So you have to follow the state's procedures. You have to get these, then we're gonna have to buy either easements or try and acquire land. So it's not, and we have the railroad to deal with. It's not going to be an easy proposition. But
either it's a goal or it's not a goal. We're gonna plan for it or we're not gonna plan for it. I don't want to. I'm at the point where it's like I'd rather not talk about it anymore if we're not going to do it. I mean, I could come up with some plans myself. I came up with wayfinding signs, but I don't want to have to hit Craig up for things all the time. I mean, he's been so accommodating with so many things. Anyways, the focus I think we have to have is planning. One of the things that you asked about in regards to other towns is complete streets. Mm-hmm. Complete streets is something that Weathersfield, Glastonbury, and most towns are doing now. And I know I talked to, Lisa about complete streets, and she suggested this was the place to bring it up at the PIC committee. So I don't know that that's anywhere really in our POCD, but it sort of encompasses a lot of the stuff we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that my suggestion would be that it's a good starting place for this committee, because a lot of the surrounding towns and municipalities throughout the state receive funding because they have a complete streets policy. Rocky Hill does not have one. So, that's something we can explore. And if you guys are looking for guidance on how to tie all of this together, maybe you bring in someone who can speak on complete streets and, give suggestions on how do you move forward. I know one of the things you do need is a policy at the council level. So, maybe you offer a joint meeting or, a presentation and try to just tie everything, together, identify your funding source, and then break apart, what you want to achieve and how you want to prioritize that. Because it is great to have all of these big plans, but I think you really do need to consider the funding source. And there are not that many grants out there, and we don't know if the state's going to be well funded and when they're going to approve that type of money. But if there is funding available through a complete streets project, then we probably should be prepared for that now, so that when you're ready to implement whatever plan it is you decide to implement, at least we have that source. Then at least we have a policy, if that's the direction the council wants to move in. So when you're applying for the grants, you can check off a lot more boxes that make you look eligible.
We actually just got it's LOTSIP grant, I think it is, using complete streets to close the gap of sidewalk on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to have the policy. We just had to say we're abiding by complete streets. And actually, if you remember CROG, they have the policy. So you follow their policy. It's basically already written.
Yeah.
So we're basically already complete streets because we're a CROG member.
Yeah. But I do know that we're in a better position.
Yes. Well, there's one that we talked about recently that it wasn't a complete streets policy. There was another. It was an actual plan that we had to have. It was an independent group that comes in and does the plan, and we don't have that plan. Yeah. That was for another one that we just looked at. We just didn't qualify.
Yeah.
But Complete Streets is a component.
Something to consider.
The other person that I would recommend is Peter Gillespie. And if you're
Mhm.
talking about Weathersfield, because Peter Gillespie in Weathersfield has taken, he's really taken the initiative, and he might be a great, as you said, Lisa, in regards to Complete Streets, maybe he'd be a great asset to have in one of these meetings and discuss the plan. You know, they have an actual they're working on a walking and biking plan right now. Strictly walking and biking in Weathersfield.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I'd love for us to do that, just to look at other transportation modes. And that's what Complete Streets would make us focus on, maybe, you know?
And I think we do have that in our POCD. It's not listed as like Complete Streets, but if you look at support other transportation modes,
Yeah.
there is a specific section. It says, you know, continue to expand pedestrian network in Rocky Hill by requiring sidewalks,
Yeah,
you know, building new sidewalk connection, establishing off-road trails and paths, interconnecting trails and sidewalks in comprehensive pedestrian. So I think we have those elements in our POCD. So I think that does help us when we apply for any funding. If we say that that is the town goal per our POCD, it does, you know, have a weight, because that has been vetted through by the town, and you know, it is in our POCD. So I think all these things are good points, and I agree. Ed, I think we, if we don't put something on the paper and have it ready, whether it can happen or not, that, you know, we'll see. However, if we are working on something and if we have a plan, as Lisa said, if funding comes up, we can just brush it up, refine it, and submit it for our funding. But if you don't have anything, you know, we cannot apply, because all these have deadlines, and you cannot come up with a plan by that deadline. So, so I think maybe what we do is that we start working on some sort of plans, and maybe that's where town staff can help us out in drawing the plans or putting things on paper, and then see what it means. Like on Glastonbury Avenue, as you know, Steve said, I mean, it's a state road. So now you have to deal with state. And when you have, you know, when you want to do sidewalks on both sides or one side, you know, you're talking about property. Who is going to give the property? And we don't know the right of way for state, how you know, deep they go into the property. So all those are concerns. But having said that, we can put something on paper and say, this is the plan we have. And we look at it and say, you know what, there are 50 different obstacles with this, so let's put it aside. But at least we had them. Now move on to the other.
Can I say something, Dimple, on that? I mean, you're looking at a straight shot from, it seems, from Silas Dean through Glastonbury Avenue. But you know what? There's other options out
Yes.
there. So we got to explore, you know what? There's nothing that precludes us from brainstorming.
Yep.
And this issue of connectivity to the river right now. I mean, there is Washington Street. I mean, we're forgetting about Washington Street. Washington Street will probably, even though we're still going to probably outlet towards Glastonbury Avenue, it's probably going to cut down quite a bit of work that would need to be done on Glastonbury Avenue instead. And I think it would probably be a better fit. So if we can sit down, come up with a plan, you know, maybe staff and Ed, or the three of us, the four of us can come up with something that could, you know, on paper, that could, and you know, show alternatives that maybe can work. And that will probably be a step in the right direction. At least it will, you know, at least we can try, you know?
No, that's excellent point. I think, you know, I think maybe where we start is we want to connect Silas Dean to the riverfront. That's the goal.
Well, the
How do we
community-
do it?
the
There might be
community
different.
center. We want the community center
Yes.
to be connected, right? Don't we, Dimple?
What
Yeah,
about
I mean-
what about town
Is it-
center and Ames property?
Well, I think it's automatic, Ed. If you're going from the Silacine, you're going to incorporate the community center. But if you start at the community center, then you eliminate your whole town center concept. So I think you have to drive it from the Silacine Ames area, because now you're looking at 3 different projects that the POCD covers, and then work your way, and the community center is right there. It'll just come right out,
Are you?
no
are you
matter which
inclu-
way you go.
Are you including Ames in the town center?
I do in
Yeah.
my mind.
I mean,
think
I,
I'm just
Starting
asking.
point.
I didn't know. That's,
In my mind, I do, but that's a greater vision. But I think the way it's zoned right now, it's so, what is the word? A village, town center, village.
yeah, it's a
Tim?
village. Yep,
it
village
is.
center.
Oh, okay, all right.
No,
But-
because that is a huge property out there, and if we leave it aside, we'll be doing a mistake not including that and having in the connection. I think,
But there's a few other roadways that lead to the river. I mean,
Right.
there's always Pratt Street, there's Belden Lane, there's a few ways that we can do this without having to utilize Glastonbury Avenue as much. And we can put it on paper. And if you know what, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it works, well, maybe that will be the way to go. So that could be something that could be explored right now, and maybe perhaps show to the committee at the next meeting.
Is that a possibility? Could that be a task that we can do, Bob? Bob
Yes,
suggested himself.
I certainly think that we can do this, because it's looking up plans and maybe a little bit of topo, and draw something on CAD maybe with Steve, and get it done. I don't think it's gonna take that long, to be honest with you.
How do we get to agreement on that?
I mean, I think it looks like, it looks like Bob has already said, I think he will work with Steve and Kim and, Craig, and they can all work together. And, as we said, we need a connection, right?
Yeah,
And-
we can
and-
show you some alternatives, and like I said, if they work, they work. If they don't, well, then we can say at least we went through X, Y, and Z, So because we haven't really seen anything on paper yet, and we keep talking about it, but we haven't really shown
Right.
anything on paper. I mean, we don't have to get very well detailed, but at least show some schematics as to, the options.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have 2 options, and one option doesn't involve state, right there, we eliminated a big hurdle.
Yep.
And so,
To Dimple and the mayor's point about is it in the POCD, complete streets and everything else? Is there anything on this document that we can actually consolidate and say it's complete streets? Like
Yeah.
Dimple, you brought up several different things, and if we can knock out 20 things and say it's the complete streets methodology, then we have a more concise document and something, and for lack of a better term, more modern term to bring to get money, those kind of things, and talk to other towns about, rather than go through, line 47, line 34, it all
Right.
means the same thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
no, I think we can do that, because there are, again, I think this goes by the particular section I'm looking at. It's about transportation modes.
Yeah.
It says support other transportation modes, and it talks about pedestrian friendly town center to town center area. They have Route 3 to Century Hill area. I mean, they're talking about a lot of things, connect off-road trails. So I think we can bring it up. I mean, they do even have bicyclists, like, we talked about, I remember they said bicycling is growing as a transportation option and as a recreational activity. And we have that. So yes, I think we can, I think we can trim this down, because it needs trimming and concentration by idea or by task, rather than complete street broken down into like 5 different pages. So yeah, maybe we look at that and cut it down as a first step,
we also talked about, the priority to get to the river. Is there any chance that we can prioritize like different areas of town that we actually, if you had like a 10 to 20 foot section of sidewalk that would actually make it a much improved thing in town? Like, for example, on Hayes Road, past the farm, there's no sidewalk there. And you have
Working
to jump
on
out.
it.
We're
And
working
I'm
on
just
it.
saying,
Working on that one.
all that is great stuff.
Yep.
But is there a working list or document?
Oh, yeah.
So-
We've been, for the last 20 years I've been here, we've been filling gaps. We filled, I don't know how many miles that we've completed and
that's
filled gaps.
awesome. And is it something that this committee can either talk about or help with in
Oh,
that
absolutely.
process? Because it's,
Absolutely.
you
I
see
mean, as
people
I
like
said,
on
right now we're
Frank
gonna be
Street
filling the
and
gap on Elm.
Haynes. Yeah,
Yep.
that's all. That is great because
Yep.
it's, those kind of things. You're working on the river, but then don't forget there's north, south, east, and west
And-
of town, and those little sections of sidewalk mean the world of difference to so many people.
And to your point, you're all saying, oh, we're gonna come up with a plan to go down to the river. It's gonna be pretty labor intensive. And if I could do things like this Elm Street, which is also labor intensive, we got the money, or we have that grant. It's a go. So, and that's that's gonna be coming up soon. I'm gonna get the go ahead to start the surveying, the design, and all that. And to do the Hayes Pond. That's an easy project to do, and I can get that on paper and get that rolling. So,
that was the low hanging
I don't
fruit
want
I
to
was
sound like
talking about,
I'm
Ed.
being negative about the thing going to the river, but right now there's a lot of hurdles, a lot of obstacles. I want to put my times and energies into things that I know I can get done, like you're saying, fill these gaps, do that kind of stuff. I understand we want to get down there. I can throw some lines on the paper, but the actual survey part and all the other stuff, it's
No.
time and energy. And right now, I'm the only guy in the office who uses AutoCAD.
We're gonna make it work. We're gonna show you a schematic plan. That's what
Yeah,
all we're talking
schematic
about,
is what we
Steve,
can
is
do.
schematics. That's all we're doing for now.
Simple, yeah, nothing big,
Simple,
Steve.
exactly.
No,
Keep it
nothing
simple.
big, yeah.
We're gonna keep it simple. Yes.
Put it
Ed,
on a napkin, buddy.
sorry. And if I recall, when we met last year for PIC, weren't you putting together a map of where we needed sidewalks, where we needed
Yes.
to connect? I mean, I remember like it was meeting after meeting, we were looking at like,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So we gave you.
We
I
have
think
that
at one
map.
point. I think at one point we gave you copies of the map. We didn't give you enough copies, but we still have the map that we can share with all the members, and we can print out larger scale maps so you can see where the gaps that we have
Yeah.
along the sidewalks also.
Steve, Victor asked if there's something that we can do to help you. Is there? I mean, I'm a cheerleader on Facebook for you guys all the time. Is there something on
Understood.
that?
Understood, but unless you can come in and actually do the work on the computer,
No.
Yeah.
But, if there's anything you could think of, as you go
No.
along.
So,
We're
I
here
mean,
for you.
Increase the staff threefold, I guess. That's what Steve
Yeah.
is saying.
get
but
Bob to
that's not gonna
retire. We'll
happen.
get somebody
But
who
that's
can.
not gonna happen.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the sidewalk map. I mean, I have sidewalk map 2015.
Yeah.
It
There
shows
might
a
be
lot
an
of gaps.
updated one. There might be, but at least I have that.
Yeah.
Yep. No, so I
Eh,
think maybe without prolonging it, there are one or two tasks that we can work on. One thing is, as Steve is saying, if he has any low hanging fruit for the sidewalks, that he can share. So that would be one. And as Bob is saying, the second would be the connection from Silas Dean to the waterfront, look at different options, just the schematics. I mean, we are not looking for exact, basically what it would be is like, what kind of setbacks you need, and do you have sufficient setbacks and things like that. And if you don't have, then you don't have. And probably what the schematic will show is, the sidewalk is going through somebody's, living room because you don't have sufficient, frontage. And that's okay. I think what that will do is that will tell us that, hey, this Glastonbury Ave, if you want to address that, probably you have to take all the properties, along Glastonbury Ave. Then you can have a nice walk and connection. Maybe, but at least we have looked at it. and based on the facts, based on the requirements, the zoning requirements, the regulations and all that. So at least those are two. And then maybe Ed, if you want, if you want to talk to Ed Gillespie, I don't know if you are in touch with him because of your work, if that helps us, and if he wants to help us out, talk about what they have done and give us some ideas, maybe we
Sure.
can entertain that.
I can invite him to our next meeting. Would you suggest or no?
Yeah, we can have him next meeting.
Okay.
So that would be the third. The fourth would be looking at this, spreadsheet that we have and breaking it down or combining into, based on, like, say, streetscape or that kind of ideas rather than various tasks or items broken into like different pages. So maybe Kim can look at that and see if we can combine it into different sections. So it's clear, when we talk about bicycles, we don't have to go through 5 different pages. It's right on one page, everything is there, and we can talk about it and then move it to second item, So any other tasks that you guys can see for our meeting, for next meeting? I think those are huge. I think we did accomplish a lot by talking through and what we are going to, what the tasks are. Ed, agree or?
Yes, no, I agree. Thank you. I appreciate the conversation. No, I don't have, I could come up with many things, but I think we're good for now.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is the start. So I think we
Good start.
sure
Good
that, again, I look at this as a team effort. Okay. I mean, it's not someone else's task. It's not like, oh, it's not my job, it's his
Right.
job or her job. That's not how we are going to address this. What we are doing today and what we are going to do in the future is for the town and for the town residents. So we have to look at it from town's perspective. We cannot look at it from P&Z perspective. Oh, this is P&Z, so I'm not going to do anything. It's your problem. It's open space. So, well, I don't care. It's open space's problem. So we have to look at it from a team perspective. So I really appreciate everybody chiming in, and I think it was a good conversation. And hopefully we can, in a short time frame, we can show some things that we do as a big committee. So I think that's 4C, tasks assigned. Kim, you want to go item 5, approval of minutes?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The internet here has been really bad. So every time I hardly heard the meeting. So
Poor Kim.
He's frozen again.
it-
You froze again.
Go net
Right,
speed.
Okay. So the minutes were done with prior members, Ed, Sandy, Bob, myself. Dimple may have been present.
Okay, so do, at least we know who were there. So do you want to, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor who were there? Yes. And
Aye.
all right, motion passes. Item 6 is the approval of 2021 meeting schedule. I think everybody has the schedule, right?
There had been a suggestion for us to meet quarterly. I'm looking at every 2 months.
Mhm.
If we need to meet more or want to meet more, we can.
What is everybody's I'm just looking at everybody, to
Well-
get some consensus.
I'm good.
Bi-monthly is good.
I'm fine with that. My question was going to be about the time and, you know, I know one of the items in Complete Streets is talking about trying to meet when people are available and not to impose that much. I know you all are working, so I just throw that out. I'm very flexible, so I can meet at any time. And I just, you know, if 6 o'clock is good with everybody, then let it be. But if you wanted to meet, I don't know if you can meet during the day. I'm just throwing it out.
I think evening's gonna be better for most people on this.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So we keep it as presented?
6 o'clock.
Yes.
Yep, 6, and then the next meeting will be February, and then April, June, August, October, December. All right, if everybody is in agreement, can I have a motion
So moved.
and second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. So the next meeting date is February 3rd, 2021. So Kim, do you want to just recap what, you know, I think we have like 4 items for assignments, right?
If I got them. We have connectivity to the river, which I know we as staff have talked about briefly as well. Consolidation of items on spreadsheet into more broader categories. Sidewalks.
Mhm.
Can PIC help prioritize sidewalks? Reaching out to the town of Weathersfield with respect to the connectivity that they have participated in with, for example, Goodwin University and the trails into the meadows and connecting with them in Rocky Hill Meadows.
Mhm. Yep.
And I think that was it.
Yeah, I think that covers. And then I know economic development is not represented, but I think hopefully who is involved from there? It's
Marty and Ray.
Ray and Marty. You know, they can probably work on the funding aspect, like various funding sources. They can look at state, federal, you know, historic, whatever, and see if there is anything out there that can help, including, you know, Chamber of Commerce. I mean, if they have, because at one point during the PIC, you know, a couple of years ago, we were talking about even recognizing companies who donate, you know, for these causes, you know, so like this plaque or this area was, you know, donated by Henkel or whoever, you know. I think that gives them recognition. So I think there are different ways of enticing people and getting them involved. So Ray and his team should be really looking at those because, you know, they're the ones who can bring money in to ease the burdens, you know, on the town side. So maybe that's the 5th one, and you can, you know, talk to Ray about that.
I know that Glastonbury, Dimple, puts
Yep.
together a wish list.
Mhm.
And if they need whatever they need, and they put it together in this really pretty little color, almost like a magazine kind of thing.
Mhm.
And if they need a bench or a garbage can or whatever it might be, you go through the book as a business or a family and you decide, hey, that's what I want to donate. And it's really nice because it's all out there and you can share it, and it might be something we could consider doing.
That's a good idea too, right? I mean, it's people can see, and yep. So maybe some, you know, again, that would fall under Ray, and he can, you know, he can talk to you, Lisa, and figure out who at Glastonbury, and they can get a sample and see what he can come up with. Okay. All right. Any other ideas? Any other comments?
If I may, just give you a quick update on some of the little things going on that are kind of related. As I said, Elm Street, we did get lots of funding from the state to complete that stretch, so we'll be able to have pedestrian traffic east to west from Route 3 to Route 99. That's probably a year or two out from bidding, depending on the state reviews. And
Steve,
then,
are you talking about sidewalks? Are you talking about sidewalks coming around that
Sidewalks.
S?
Yep,
Oh,
we're gonna
nice.
have sidewalks. Yep. And then Silas Dean Highway, as you can see, there's construction going on for the streetscape. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they're very behind, so they're obviously not going to finish this year. We're about 18% in billable items. Construction-wise, we're probably a little further than that. It's a $2 million job, and they've only built like 300,000 so far. They almost have all the sidewalk complete on the east side of the road. And weather dependent, we're going to work on the west side of the road with some sidewalks, trying to finish off the electrical bases. And then come spring, they'll be planting trees, putting up all the electrical lights, and wrapping up. But I walked in end to end today. It's when you get to the south end where there's actually a few trees there now, and the brickwork is finished. It's very appealing to the eye. Not a straight line; it curves and winds, so it's really nice.
Oh, thank you. I think that's a great work. I always wanted to, when we were discussing POCD and our regulations and things like that during our meetings, for our Silas Dean Highway, it is just like a highway. People just go through at 40, 50 miles an hour. There is no incentive for people to, slow down or stop and go for an ice cream or sandwich or things like that. I don't know, when you talk to DOT, what the vision I had was, have a parallel parking, on 91. I know it's a grandiose idea.
Like the West Hartford Center.
Right.
Yeah.
But
well, a little history. About 25 years ago, they did have $6 million to do work on the Silas Dean Highway, and they're ready to go, and the business owners didn't want it.
That was like a median, right?
Yes.
I believe. I'm not exactly positive. It was before I got here, but it was about 25 years ago. Jim had $6 million secured, and he had to turn it back in. Yep.
Yeah, it was a raised landscape median with decorated lights.
Yep.
Yeah.
It could have been nice.
No,
I'd love to see traffic slow down there, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, Bristol has done it. If you go through Bristol downtown, like they have done traffic calming measures, and maybe we come up with those kinds of measures and ask our, DOT and maybe involve our legislators and see if we can do something there, because that's, we don't have downtown per se, but that's we can create that effect and feel. And I think it would be good for everybody. I mean, businesses, residents, any new businesses who wants to come to Ames, or anybody. I mean, it's a good idea to,
Yeah, many times that's driven by us, and it's not asking them to do it. We have to come up with the plan. We have to get our own consultants. We apply to the state through grants. That's how we've done the Silas Dean. That's how we've done other projects in town. And usually the state will pay 80% and we'll pay 20%.
Right.
Yep. So, but we have to, it has to come from us. And
so this is something to keep in mind. I mean, I've always that vision for Route 99. I mean, because what we have is our town is divided by, highways. I mean, 99 and the Route 3.
Yep.
And we don't, so.
And 91.
And 91 going, yep. All right. Any other comments? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll
Can I have a
second.
second, please?
We all second it.
All right.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. It was
Thank you,
great.
Dimple.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.
All right.